Hi, you're listening to the Unscheduled podcast featuring me, Zach, and my co host.
That's me, Javi.
So, if you've clicked on this video, welcome to the Unscheduled podcast. It's exactly what it sounds like, an unscheduled podcast between me and my friend Javi here, which will be posting on no set schedule. What's this podcast about, you may ask? Just about whatever. We feel like talking, just two dudes hanging out, and just relaxing, and any topic that comes up, we'll keep going with it. So feel free to stick around. So, how you been, Javi?
Doing pretty well. Been getting a lot more into sort of exploring my options regarding my hobbies, career paths, and just being pretty optimistic, man. How about you?
I've been pretty good. Like here we are filming basically our pilot of a podcast, and this is a personal project that I've actually been wanting to work on for a little while. And considering the state of the world, it's now a pretty good time to pick it up.
Absolutely. I've been watching a few content creators, and a lot of them have been mentioning, after this, I think we're going to be seeing a little bit of an upsurge, in terms of content, creation, especially even before considering, the ease and the access of, all the tools you need to make this content. Now that everyone has the time for it, I think we're going to see a real sort of blossom in terms of not just the, the quantity, but also maybe, perhaps this will give rise to some new stars.
Yeah, seriously though, like what's so interesting to me about this is like, well, I know there are production or like online companies, I guess you could say, or channels that have been affected obviously by the state of the world and everything. Overall, it's like much of the content creation industry, I would argue, has not really changed or has not really needed to adapt too much to the current landscape.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I'd say in terms of online content and sort of digital format, it's a lot. You can make the argument that most traditional outlets aren't really using it as their main source of their main platform. It's really more of like a subsidiary or really sort of something just to like feed back into the into the main platform, which is still traditional media. So I think I totally agree with you there. I don't think most of these traditional outlets were really prepared for this. I think they were just using these platforms really just to like kind of tie it back to like what they were originally trying to say.
Yeah, at least around here anyway. Like I don't
Yeah.
I can't speak for the rest of the world because I haven't really been able to see too much of the rest of the world except for the small bursts of news we get. But I do want to say this, and I talked to you about this before, and I'm gonna call an "I told you so" moment. Not specifically to you, but just like the situation in general.
Yeah.
So I was watching a news report yesterday, and they were talking about how there's not going to be any new content on TV for a while. And I
Hmm.
know we've had this discussion. I was just like, see, I told everyone this would happen because studios cannot really function right now by any means. Like film production, TV production, all that's out the window right now. There is, at best, at least, and I say this not knowing everything, animation is still going to work, but anything
Hmm.
live action has been thrown to the rear right now.
Yeah, no, it's really difficult to, work with, live action because unless you have pre-existing footage or pre-existing, source material that you can really use, it's pretty difficult because like no one can meet up in person right now, especially in large groups.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I'd say I kind of agree with you on the point that animation, I think, is kind of like, honestly, it's not a great situation to be in, but I think animation is kind of doing the best with the worst, per se, because they actually do have the means to sort of actually create content still in some capacity, whereas live action is just kind of like completely not an option right now. It's
yeah.
really just
Because
um yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say because with live action you have to. All right, so there are so many elements to working on just a crew
Hmm.
that, and it's like anyone in like tech, drama, theater, stuff like that will immediately tell you, yeah, none of that can work right now. And so, like, I'm just thinking about all the components that goes into it. You have the actors, obviously, which everyone knows about. Then the second most known, you have the directors. Then on top of that, you have the producers. Then you have the film crew. You have the production crew, the editing crew. Then on top of that, you also have miscellaneous positions too. So you have people who are catering things, people who are bringing in props, and then the studio itself in which or area in which they're recording, because sometimes they do it in public too. So you have to think of all of that, and that's just not viable right now for any film to or TV show to be filmed right now.
Totally agree. There are so many like positions within the hierarchy of like filming that kind of go unseen and kind of like make it sustainable. And so like I especially with regards to like catering and stuff like that, these, I'd say those kinds of areas of expertise are really kind of like being sort of thrown out of the picture because like they're not really getting anything out of this at all. Like their main source is, catering to like these production companies and stuff like that. So,
Yeah,
I totally agree. Yeah.
yeah. But it's also really interesting how I've seen some TV shows actually adapt to this too.
Hmm.
And I don't know when they recorded this or anything, but I remember I was flipping through channels the other day, and I went through to Nickelodeon, and
Hmm.
one of their live action shows they were actually shooting from like on a Zoom call and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So to me, I found that I was like, one, I'm impressed they were able to even shoot an episode like that.
Hmm.
Two, I'm more. It's definitely a different element to try and shoot a show like that when you have none of the sound effects, none of the artificial inserts, or any props. It's almost like it's going back to the basics of almost a film student making a movie, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, they're actually pretty good examples of this. So, I remember, particularly the ones that stick out to me are Parks and Recreation and Community. I
Yeah.
know that they also both did. I think they did reunion, Zoom calls, and they just like basically like like recalled with fondness like all like the like silly things that happened like during the recording sessions. So I think it's interesting to see like how these like not dead, but like these old franchises are coming back to like sort of provide new content for people during this lockdown.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like it just shows you how caught off guard we were, though, really, and how much adapting we have to do. But I'm not
Yeah.
entirely complaining about this either because some of the greatest content is being produced right now.
Hmm.
So, I mean, silver lining, I guess, but you got to take the good with the bad on it too.
Yeah, something else that I thought was interesting is that particularly well specifically sports channels are starting to broadcast more like gaming content. They're starting to like produce more
Yeah,
like esports content, which I thought was really interesting. In particular, I know Univision, the main Spanish broadcasting channel, at least in the U.S., actually has their sports subsidiary is running a what is it called, an esports league for their Mexican league, and
huh?
they have like a representative from like each team from the Mexican league, and they're all playing like a tournament. And I thought that was really interesting. It's kind of like and it's filling up that time slot where you would usually see those Liga MX games kind of take place.
Yeah, yeah. No, I get what you mean because I remember like I wouldn't say it was a controversy, but it was like there. It was definitely a buzz. I think I don't remember if it was ESPN. I want to say it
Hmm.
was showing actual just like instead of an actual like I think it was basketball. Instead of an
Hmm.
actual basketball game, they just showed a like game of NBA 2K 20, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't
20.
know. I don't follow those things anymore. I stopped playing sports games a long time ago.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But yeah. So I remember I don't think there was outrage around it,
No.
but it was definitely something that I would say it grabbed attention.
Yeah, I mean, like they've been trying to do a bunch of like different things. So like, I know, I know particularly with regards to ESPN. I can't remember if it was ESPN or TNT that was running it, but I think they were running a virtual game of horse. And if you know what horse is, it's a game where you stand in a particular spot and you shoot the ball. And if you make that basket, the next person after you has to shoot from that same shot from that same spot. And if they don't make it, they get a letter, which leads to like horse,
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so, and I thought it was really interesting because, you know, this thing that people do like all the time, like just in their backyards or in like a park or something, is like being done by like professional athletes across the country from like a Zoom call. I mean, like it kind of like highlights, not only like the lengths to which we'll go to like create new like stuff for us to consume, but also like kind of a sense of desperation, like I would never think that I would want to watch like professional basketball players play horse from like their backyard. That's just ridiculous in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I get you, man. Like it's almost, it was really funny to me because I think at one point I did see they did like player face-offs of like, the all-stars and stuff.
Yeah.
They were playing like their teams as like, a video game and
Hmm.
facing off against each other. And then now all of a sudden like they're doing it almost seriously, and it's like it's almost a competitive league, but it was just more like a recreational thing.
Yeah, and this is actually being done all around the world. I know in the world of soccer, uh, a famous Twitch streamer over in Spain actually organized a tournament for charity, with conjunction with the La Liga players and the La Liga Association. And he was actually able to raise a fairly good amount. I can't remember what it was, but it was pretty deep in the thousands. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, I get
Uh,
that.
yeah, and then I know the Premier League also, I think they're working with NBC Sports and they're doing something with that as well, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, I think this is kind of like, um, I mean, honestly, whether or not the content is good, either in the quality or like the actual content itself, you can make that argument yourself. But I think it's really interesting, like how this quarantine is really leading to like new content that I don't think we'd ever have seen, at least not publicly televised. Most of this stuff I feel like is something you'd find on YouTube, not an NBC, like an actual like channel.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. Like it's a huge change, and it's almost the new normal. Obviously, some things will revert back. Other
Hmm.
things are definitely going to be impacted through all of this, but it's a new landscape altogether that I'm just looking at, and I'm like, wow. You asked me this a year ago, I never would have believed any of this because we would have just, or at least for me, I would have just been finishing classes and not even thinking of what content was being made or anything. I'd just be consuming it like I usually would. So
Yeah,
it's been amazing in one way, but really wild in another.
wild and sort of interesting. I'm kind of excited to see like excited isn't really the right word because I just want like I'm not gonna lie, I want sports to be back. I know it's not their time for it. I know like uh it's not the best climate for it right now, but I just want it to be back. But I mean, yeah, I mean that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, no, I
Um,
get it. Like I would love for sports to come back because I was so excited to watch sports this summer because I'd finally be able to just go and do things, and
yeah,
I was gonna have the time to go watch things in person. But now, and like you said, it's not the right time for it. And as much as it sucks, I'm gonna have to wait it out. But
absolutely. And yeah, no, I was really really looking forward to like especially baseball because like um I don't think anyone has ever said they're excited to watch the Orioles in the past 20 years, but uh, um, yeah, but I was kind of excited, by the prospect of going with everyone down to, Camden Yards and, just hanging out. I mean, I think that's at least one value that sports franchises provide, no matter if they suck or if they're really good, one thing you can always there's just always a positive, and like I think for that to be kind of stripped from you is kind of like a really like sobering like kind of thing to think about. Like these sports franchises, whether they suck or whether they're really good, they always provide some sort of like mediation and some sort of comfort for you, whether regardless of like what kind of comfort that comes from. So I thought that was really interesting to think about.
yeah, no, I get it. Like, and as much as a team may suck for home fans, a
Mhm.
team will never truly suck for them
Yeah,
because they'll go out and still support the team regardless. So
yeah.
yeah, and I mean, I would say Baltimore's love for the Orioles is still very fierce.
No, yeah.
As rough as the season, past couple seasons they've had, their their love is still there undeniably.
Yeah, no, and that's kind of the point I was trying to make is like, regardless of whether a team is good or not, like if the franchise is like ev- eventually at some point, like some sort of level of comfort at franchise, regardless of whether it's good or not. So, and
Yeah.
I think that's kind of like the value that it provides. So, yeah.
It's also really interesting to me now that I think about it. Essentially, I would say we have like two teams that are within about 100 miles of each other.
Hmm.
And yet you can, it's almost like this weird line where you can see where the fans for one team starts and where the fans for the other teams ends. And
Yeah,
it's really wild to me because for the area we live in, we have the Orioles and the Nationals.
yeah,
And don't get me wrong, I love both teams because I grew up with both teams. But for me, I love the Nationals just a little bit more because I have a bit more connection with them. And for like you and me, we could go catch a Nationals game. Like let's say Corona wasn't a thing right now.
yeah,
We could go to a Nationals game, and it'd be in theory with good traffic and everything a 30-minute drive. If we wanted to go see the Orioles, depending on the traffic, it would be almost an hour to
yeah,
go see them, and then have to deal. I mean, keep in mind both we'd have to deal with really bad traffic areas of both Baltimore and
hmm,
DC, and I'm not going to get into a pissing match of who has worse traffic and stuff because traffic sucks everywhere. That's just
yeah,
the fact of it all. But it's so wild to me. It's like you have these teams that are essentially within 100 miles of each other, and yet you can have like a solid line between which teams are supported, and you could say the same for the Ravens and the Redskins too.
yeah. It's really funny to me how, not funny, but I think it's genuinely kind of um like, let's say, like you can realistically like both teams and no one will call you out for it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I
Like
would. No reasonable fan, I would say, would call
yeah,
you out for it.
yeah, like I know like in other like cities, obviously you can't like, let's say for basketball, you can't like let's say you can't like the Rockets and the Spurs, like because they have a deep rivalry. But I feel
Right.
like especially in the DMV, like if you like the Ravens, but you also kind of like are fine with going to Redskins games, like I don't think anyone will really care.
No,
Like
no. There are obviously there are casual rivalries and there are like
yeah,
friendly rivalries, but definitely not. I would say there hasn't really been any rivalry between the Redskins and the Ravens since like I want to say at least 5 years now.
yeah, I mean, I personally like I have one friend who for some reason kind of dislikes the Ravens, but in my opinion, like and to be fair, like I don't like I'll call myself out, like I haven't been like that staunch of a follower of like sports outside of soccer since like high school maybe. So I don't have like that like deep of a sense of let's say the rivalries and like the sort of the histories between these teams, at least not like in a first person experience. But like from what I've experienced, like most Ravens fans do not care. Like not care is not, but they're like neutral to Redskins fans, and Redskins fans, at least in my opinion, are kind of like in the same way. So
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I feel like we can I haven't been to a Ravens game, I will say that, because like I've just never had either the finances or the time to go. I also
yeah,
don't entirely care to go see a football game in person.
fair.
Like I'm not the biggest football fan, I'll admit that. Like
Hmm.
I will say that hands down, but as we've both been in Baltimore like quite a bit of our lives now, I'd say,
Hmm.
we can see that like at least when it comes to I see there is more love for the team than there is disdain for other teams. I
Yeah,
think that's the best way I could put it.
absolutely. I agree with that.
Yeah. And this is me saying though I had don't know other fandoms for like other sports teams and stuff. This is me not really being exposed to them because, all I really have off of other sports teams is the stories you hear. Like, you have the
Hmm.
Philly fans, the Steelers fans, like, I guess they're Los Angeles now for the Chargers fans and stuff like that.
Hmm.
You hear different things, but until you go to a game, I would say in their city, you wouldn't really be able to experience any of that, or you could unless you see it on the news too. But I mean, it I guess that's just how sports are sometimes. like I was checking this out the other day. I was on Twitter, and they were doing this, like, it was a pseudo March Madness thing, but instead of March Madness, they were doing March Madness moments, and
Hmm.
people were voting on it. And I started reading
Yeah.
through the comments. Keep in mind, it's Twitter already, so I didn't expect anything great.
Oof. Yeah.
But it has been a while that I had completely forgotten how intense fans can get, especially when they're talking about their teams.
Yeah.
So I looked through that and I was just like, geez, what the actual hell? And I was like, there was just so much. There was just like, it was weird. It's like there's this animosity, but they weren't even teams that had ever faced off. But people were still so passionate about this, and to me, it was just ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No.
I don't know. I was like, I'm like, I don't think I could ever reach this level of fan
Hmm.
where I can defend something this like ingrained.
Yeah. I wouldn't say. Well, the main thing I want to talk about is like, um. So I think it's interesting that you brought that up because like, if you've ever followed UMBC athletics, you'll know that they are staunch like defenders of the 16-1 clash between Virginia and stuff like that. And it's just so funny because they're constantly like they're quote retweeting comments that are directed at them from like universities that we've never even played against. The basketball teams never played against, like, let's say, like some teams from like LA, and they'll be like saying like, oh, the 16-1 was a fluke, you guys would never do that ever again. And it's
Yeah.
like why do you care?
Yeah, I
Like
mean, it's like I understand for people who like build their brackets and
yeah,
obviously have their like office bets and stuff. That
yeah.
I understood. I was like, okay, you can be salty in that moment because you just lost money on this.
Mhm.
But everything else, like the animosity that carried out after the fact, I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Like I never understood why people were so angry about it, and it's like it'll never happen again, and it's like they could be right, but you know what, it happened, accept
Yeah.
it. So it's like you can't change history here. Like millions of people were watching, it happened, they went through, and so it was something that had never been seen before, as far as I know. I don't know enough about NCAA history
Yeah.
really to say, but as far as I know in basketball, that has never happened before. And then I feel like the biggest loser out of it, and again, was I've said this before, was Little Caesars, who made
Mm.
that joke tweet right before,
Yeah.
like 2 or 3 days before the game, and then when UMBC actually did it, they were like, "Oh crap, we can't pull the oh we're just joking card, or this is gonna be really bad for us."
Yeah, that would have been like terrible PR if they had just been like,
Yeah,
"Nah, we knew UMBC was gonna win. We're just kidding." Nah.
no, there was no belief behind us going to win, and I love how the film crews came to our school to
Yeah,
see if the students were celebrating, but we were on winter break, so they were just like, "No one's here." It's like, well, we're on break. What do you expect from us?
yeah, yeah. The only people that are there, people who like have like 9-month housing. Like, what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah,
Like,
no, and it's like the only reason we even knew more details about like what went on behind the scenes was because we had a friend who was part of the band who went down there, and then I
yeah,
later found out more stuff because I was like I've worked with some of the tech crew and they told me some of their stories. But I
yeah,
mean,
like how? No, sorry, go ahead.
no, it was just like I wasn't expecting to know so much, but it's amazing how much a tech crew can know about a sports team, and arguably sometimes I feel like they know more about the team than the fans will ever know.
Absolutely, because tech crews are constantly following around the team and providing coverage. They're literally they have so many more opportunities, I feel like, to actually engage and sort of like actually be a part of the production, like, because the way I think about it, sports is in a way kind of like it's like a spectacle, in my opinion. Like, you know live broadcast of sports is kind of like a play, if you think about it, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, no, and
It-
I get that. Like again, working with crew, I've seen how that works.
yeah.
I know. I would say I at least know the basics of the in and outs. I do not know anything of like the higher ups and like how much organizing goes into everything because to me like their jobs are so difficult to just bring us, like, there are so many moving pieces to bring us these games
Absolutely, and that's what
that,
I'm talking about. Like
yeah,
there's so much that's like not even like thinking about like the actual performance on like the court or the field. Like you have all these moving parts. The cameras. The staff actually at the arena. It's so much work goes into like actually putting out like a sports game. It's not just the game itself. It's like the environment surrounding it. Everything. There's so many things that are making it possible just to like enjoy a sports game for what it is. You know what I mean? Like it's actually kind of insane to think
yeah,
about it.
yeah. No, I was gonna say it's like people could, like, some people. I feel like there are people, and I'm not saying this is true, but I feel like there are people who think it's very easy to broadcast these games,
No.
and
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, no, no, but it's like, for me, like, with all the moving pieces and what I've seen, one little piece can bring an entire thing apart, like, of
Yeah.
it not working, and it's amazing to me on that. And it's also like, I feel like some people's perception of how the games work is just, oh, it's a cameraman following the game. No,
Yeah.
there is, like, the cameraman is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
There is, like, so many other layers that have to go through just to make a game work. And I don't think people think about that nor realize it. But at the same time, it's like, no, you're so in the moment of the game, you're not going to think about, like, what's going on so that you see this game. Because keep in mind, there's just the broadcasting of the game, but then you also have to think of, like, your provider and how much goes through that too.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But
was wondering actually, if I'm not mistaken, you were part of, the UMC crew for like covering basketball games.
yeah, yeah. So I've been, out of all the official positions I've been,
Hmm.
I've worked as utilities. So, like, there is something you actually don't really think about. This is one position, like, I knew it existed, but I never knew what it entailed. But utilities is essentially just one guy making sure, or not one guy, but a couple people making sure that, like, things around the game and stuff are functioning properly. So they'll be running cable, or they'll be fixing cameras here and there, or they'll take up some tech pieces or move things here and there. But it is so much work. However, you do get some decent pay for that, which is what's surprising to me about it too, considering it just feels like pointless manual labor.
Yeah. But I mean, it's
Um,
not pointless though, because as you
no, no, it's
mentioned,
not. Like I
yeah,
said, one
yeah,
little piece not working can throw the entire thing out of, can throw everything, like, all your plans are done if
yeah,
one little piece doesn't work. And it's scary but amazing at the same time. But what else I've worked with is, so I worked utilities. I worked on, it wasn't so much graphics. It was data analysis, I guess is the best way to put it. So, like, when you see stats and stuff come up for players and teams and
mhm,
stuff, that was the section I worked with for some time. And you don't really think about where these stats come from or how they're calculated and stuff, but there's an entire team that's just sitting there getting all of this ready for that to be thrown up on the screen.
yeah.
And then finally, which was my biggest position, and the title makes it sounds more than what it is, but I was assistant director for a good portion of the time.
Oh wow.
So yeah, um, I say I was assistant director, but I didn't have, like, a lot of authority. I would say my job more was to make sure everything was synchronized. So I would be talking with Disney while also keeping track of commercials and making sure the rest of the team knew, hey, this goes live here. And the director would be directing things in house while I'm getting things from out of house.
Hmm.
So, and if I had to convey a message, I would shoot a quick message here and there. But, it was wild to me, like, just how much you have to do. And while the job on paper, the job seems super simple, in that
Hmm.
moment, it was so freaky and nerve wracking to me, because I'm like, oh my gosh, if I mess up this one thing, our entire broadcast is screwed.
Yeah. Oh man. Like, what was like? So, out of all those positions, which one would you say was the most rewarding?
Um, I would say that's kind of hard. If I had to say which one was most rewarding, by a narrow margin, I would say actually assistant director, but it would be closely followed by utilities actually, not the whole
Really?
graphics analysis thing. Like graphic or the data analysis. Data analysis is fine and everything, and I took a look at it. But what I found was that you were kind of just doing the same thing in and out with data analysis. And keep in mind, this is only me like working it a little bit. I'm sure there are much bigger teams and places that have to do way more work. But when I was doing it, it felt very complacent. While with utilities, I had to constantly be learning, and with assistant directing, I learned to just adapt, learn, work with what you got. Even if the entire world seems like it's coming down around you, or nothing seems to be going right, work with what you got. And it's almost as the saying goes, the show must go on. So it's like at points. So one of my most terrifying moments was, so I had technically 2 to 3 bosses above me while I was working as assistant director. That was the director, the producer, and the technical director. So our usual technical director was not there that day. And so I was like, okay, that's fine. We usually have a sub who comes in, they do their work, no problem. Sub comes in, they're good. Okay. So it's about 5 minutes before game time. We are about to broadcast a men's game, which are one of our more viewed games and gets a lot more screen time. I don't know the details behind that or why that is. That's just how it is. So then after that, so the director and the producer go off like to go do something real quick because they were called somewhere else. And I'm left alone. So Disney calls me in that moment and they say, hey, we're having problems on our end. We're going to need you guys to delay broadcast. Can you do that for us? And me sitting there as the assistant director, I'm like, I have no idea. I have no power over any of this. That is a director or producer call. Yeah. And because our technical director sub is in, he doesn't have any power or authority over it either. He just has control over the board and the crew, but he doesn't have any say on whether or not a game can be delayed. So I'm freaking out because neither of my bosses are there, like any of them. My senior team members are like, I have no idea. We are supposed to start at this time. Like, there's no way we can delay it. So they're gone for those good 5 minutes, and like 2 minutes before game time happens, my bosses come back and they're like, hey, what's up? Is everything good? And I'm like, no, everything is not good right now. They want us to delay the game. They're saying they're having technical issues. So I immediately inform them of like all the jargon they told me, everything that went down, what was going on. So they were like, yeah, tell them we can't delay the game. And Disney sounds worried on their end too. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, how do you say no to, like, in a weird way, how do you say no to Disney? And for real quick, for those who don't understand or lost the narrative, we worked as an ESPN. We were an ESPN crew, and ESPN is owned by Disney, but we got our orders directly from Disney on what to do for games and stuff. But anyway, so I'm just like, how do I say no to Disney? And then the fact that they want us, like, clearly they wanted us to delay the game, but they technically could not enforce us to delay the game. Oh, so wow. I'm just like, suddenly I go from being like an assistant director to almost feeling like a sacrificial pawn.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what the hell just happened here? So I get back on the call and I'm like, yeah, so our team is saying no, they cannot delay the game. And the manager over at Disney was like, "Are you sure you can't delay the game?" I give him like a 30-second pause, letting my bosses know, "Hey, he's really wanting us to delay the game." They're like, "No, we can't do that." And so I say again to him, "No, we can't do that." So he's like, "Okay, we're gonna try and get things fixed up on our end." And it's like, almost by a complete freaking miracle, just as the game is about to start, like we're starting intros and everything,
Hmm.
The manager at Disney comes on the line, calls me, and says, "Hey, all issues are fixed on our end. You guys are good to go." And keep in mind, this all happened within about the span of 7 minutes.
Wow.
But this 7 minutes felt like 3 hours trying to get things to work. And I'm
Absolutely.
just literally in the center of all of this, and I'm like, oh my god, what am I gonna do?
Yeah, you were like in the eye of a storm that was manufactured by Donald Duck, like he flapped his wings and like you're encased in like all this like no, we need you to delay the game, we can't start yet. I mean, honestly, but props to you. I think you did a good job with the correspondence and stuff like that. So is that kind of like, but would you really trade, being in a like, you described the data analysis as like complacent. Would you really trade, data analysis for, dealing directly with Disney?
I feel like I would because I was just like I was an intern, but by position wise,
Hmm.
I was still an assistant director. So I feel like I still learned so much being an assistant director, and I was able to do the job. I would say fairly well. I would not say I'm the best by any means, but I'd say I definitely knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
That I feel like I would have way more to contribute or to learn from being an assistant director than I ever would from data analysis. And like, while data analysis may not be, I guess, could be argued is not as stressful. And
Yeah.
again, this is me not completely working in that position, or it could be different by different teams and stuff. But it was just something to me that I was like, oh my gosh, this is how all of this gets to work. And the fact that to me it's just like, while it was so stressful and so much pressure, at the same time I'm like, I wouldn't trade this experience for anything.
Hmm.
So I don't know. It was a wild thing to me, and I was still going to keep working with that team and everything even after my internship. But then, obviously, Corona happened, and so here we are, just not not doing any of that anymore because. And I was just like, great, well, there goes that.
Yeah.
I will
No,
say
yeah, I
though,
totally. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, like, jumping topics real quick, but I will say another like silver lining that's come out from this, and going back kind of to the content creation thing we were talking about.
Yeah.
I finally have time to finish my entire backlog of games that I have.
Yes. Oh my God.
I like my backlog at the start of, because we left school on spring break. At
Hmm.
the start of that backlog, when like at the start of break, my backlog was, I would say, 9 games, and then I'd say by the end of April, it was up to 11 games. Now it's down to, miraculously, somehow it's down to about 7 games.
Wow.
Yeah. Um, because I dedicated some time. I set some time to myself, and I was just playing games. But I mean, there's still so much to do in some of these games, and this is not like 100%ing them or anything. Like for me,
Oh yeah.
finishing a game just means I either got through the story or the main pieces of the game. But there
Yeah.
is
No.
still obviously so much more to do, and some of
Absolutely.
these games are still incomplete for me. It's more I just started them,
Yeah.
and I still have 4 games that are in their original packaging. So I'm just like, well, I have a lot to do now still.
Yeah. Oh my God, dude. Like, so I have a bit of a crippling addiction to buying games and then starting them and then like actually like playing another one. Um, so the best example
As
for me
many
is
do.
actually, sorry, what?
I was just saying, as many do.
Yeah. So I remember this also. I mean, this has happened to me before, but particularly it got particularly bad last year. So I remember at the beginning of last year, I bought Xenoblade Chronicles for the Switch because I was like, oh, it's like half off. I'll get that. And then by fate, I was just on the PSN store like the next day, literally the next day. I was on PSN store and I saw that Persona 5 was on for $20 and I was
Oh,
like,
oh, yeah. Buy 2 big JRPGs literally back to back to each other. That's gonna
and
go about as well as you think.
yeah, and so I heard so much good stuff about, Persona 5. I was like, I looked at the gameplay and I was like, you know what, this kind of looks like my speed, so I downloaded it. And I was actually playing Xenoblade while I was waiting for it to download. And I kind of reached a point in Xenoblade where I was like, this isn't really for me. I mean, like, I'll obviously finish it because, like, I do like the gameplay, but like in that moment, I was thinking to myself, nah, I'll see what Persona 5 is about.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
wow, I mean, wow is just like the best way I can describe it. Like, I have a thread on Twitter where I review like the games I do and stuff like that. And I remember the first thing I was thinking with like Persona 5 is like, this is nothing like I've ever played before. Like,
Yeah,
it's
no, I get
it's
that.
really insane.
Yeah.
And so I over to like the next like month, I was just like working on Persona 5. I was like maxing out confidants. I was going through palaces. It was just such a wild ride, and it actually like opened up a floodgate of like Persona games. Like I remember that summer, like I ordered Persona 4 and 3 off of Amazon, and dude, like it just took up so much of my time. Like I think, and now I'm actually looking at Megami Tensei games. So I'm looking at like Digital Devil Saga, SMT Nocturne, stuff like that. It's just crazy, man. Like,
Yeah,
but
no,
yeah,
I
no,
get it,
particularly
dude.
with the
I get it. Like, so for me, I feel like I'm gonna get a bunch of flack for this, but
uh
it's still really funny to me. Like, I'm looking at it right now. I still have Persona 5, which I bought, I want to say, last summer
huh,
in its original packaging. Like, I have not opened that game at all.
wow,
And it's like, I look at it and I kind of laugh to myself, but at the same time, I was like, I bought the game while I was in the middle of finishing another game.
hmm,
And so, kind of the same thing with you happened with me, except almost in reverse. I focused more on finishing the other game than
yeah,
I did on even starting Persona 5. And then more games started coming out. And then more games started coming out that I just kept picking up and playing. And then I started running out of time once school started.
hmm,
And so I played it, but I had no time whatsoever. So now that like I've kind of gotten back into streaming again because that's another project I'm working on.
yeah,
I have all these games lined up, so I'm gonna try and like go through my entire backlog this summer, while
hmm,
also picking up The Last of Us Part Two and
jeez,
Ghost of Tsushima. So that's gonna be fun.
yeah,
Um, I'm just going to have to go through all of this and finish as much as I can.
yeah,
And so, like on when I'm streaming, you guys or I guess like viewers will be or Twitch followers, yeah, you know what I
mhm,
mean. Will be
yeah,
seeing that I will be that I'm just gonna be going through a different game every single day, and I'm gonna try and finish as much as I can. Like I still have a copy of God of War that I bought for $20
yeah,
for that I still haven't even opened either. Oh, and keep in mind this is like the original Persona 5 in its original packaging. This isn't Persona 5 the Royal. This is just Persona 5. I have not, and yet somehow, and I probably am gonna get this. This is probably gonna end with us posting this video, but and yet somehow I have avoided spoilers or any story context for the entirety of Persona 5.
that's honestly incredible. I mean, I like I had to unfollow so many people like just to like avoid like spoilers, and now I'm starting to get back into like the like trying to be like, hey, it's okay for us to talk now. Like,
Yeah,
like
no,
it's
no, and
yeah,
it's wild to me. I am both impressed with myself and
mhm,
confused with myself at the same time because I'm like, how did I avoid spoilers for so long? But I
yeah,
think it was just the fact that I've I wasn't a at least where I was when I got the game. I didn't really follow a lot of people who are like really into Persona. At best,
yeah,
to what I get is fan art right now, but none of the
mhm,
fan art I would say spoils any of the game for me. Like I know again next to nothing about the game. I only know even about half the characters' names right now
yeah,
because I still am trying to like find time to start this game because
absolutely.
and I'm not I think for myself and for my own sanity, I'm not going to stream it. Like that's just
Hmm.
one of the games I'm not going to stream. It's going to be a personal game just for me,
Yeah,
but I know I'm gonna have to put in so much time for that game too.
yeah. Persona 5, even without the new content in the Royal, is easily like 100 hours, especially if you're like a newcomer to the series and you're just trying to figure out like what's going on. like it's easily like 100 upwards. I would say even maybe like 120. I know for me, like my first playthrough, it was like 115 or so. Like it's just such a time sink isn't a good word because it has a negative connotation, but it'll take up so much of your time, man. Like it's insane.
Yeah, I understand that. And so for me, what's interesting about it is just that like this isn't my first Persona game. Like I've
Mhm.
played Persona 4, the original on PS2. That was a
Yeah,
phenomenal game. I never played
absolutely.
Golden, or no, I've never owned Golden. That's a better way
Yeah,
to put it, because I have played it on a friend's PS Vita like once or twice, and then
yeah.
never again. But yeah, I have played Persona 4, and that's still my favorite Persona game. Obviously, I still haven't played 5. I've heard great things about 5,
Yeah.
but it's still my favorite one because the other ones I've checked out, I haven't been able to play them, like Persona 3 or like both versions of 2
Yeah.
in the original, because I've never been able to find them more than anything. But also
Hmm.
because I've just watched the game online, like I've seen people play it. But for me, I just like I still find 4 to be my favorite. I love the characters, I love the mechanics. It
Hmm.
is a lot, though. I'm gonna have to like kind of almost relearn going back into Persona 5.
Yeah. Something interesting about at least from I've only played Persona games, but something interesting about Shin Megami Tensei is that like they make really interesting use of like weaknesses and buffs and debuffs. So they have like a huge focus on making sure like you're actually exploiting weaknesses and like making sure you're like debilitating the enemy and like buffing your own stats. Because from what I've seen, at least in Pokemon, like that's my most like that's like my best exposure to like RPGs and stuff like that. Like I know like from at least from when I was playing like buffs, like so like using like I don't know what is it like what is it I can't remember the name, but like let's say like rock polish, like for like Onyx something like that. Like it doesn't really make that much of a difference. But like in like a Shin Megami Tensei game like Persona 5 or even Persona 4 or 3, like using like a buff skill or like debuffing the enemy is like such a huge deal to like making sure you actually like get through like the game.
I wouldn't know for certain.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't say that for certain. A, because I haven't played P5,
Yeah.
but like when you look at the more competitive landscape for Pokemon, it is
Oh,
very different to like how the casual landscape is as
I can
well.
imagine that. Yeah.
So it's like I don't know, so I can't really. I want to say I wish I could comment more on that, but like
Mhm.
it was really interesting you bringing in Pokemon, because I've had a friend I've talked with who like argues up and down that Persona is more popular than Pokemon, or is like
Mm,
better than Pokemon, and I'm like,
okay.
that's a that's a little hard to
Yeah.
argue that which one is better, because they're almost two entirely different games.
Yeah.
B,
Yeah.
it's like Persona is taking off right now and it's great, but it does not have the takeoff that Pokemon had, or
Absolutely.
that like Pokemon still has, because you have Pokemon is doing really well in the sense that it holds on to, it has people gripped both in nostalgia and in also wanting to get a new game.
Yeah.
So like for new players, they're jumping in very readily and very happy. But
Hmm.
for also the retro players, or I guess more veteran players, they're also coming back to the series and
Yeah.
having a great time and playing again. And regardless of like the toxic fans and gatekeepers you see,
Yeah.
um, like I at that point I don't even put in their opinions, because at that, like, to what I at least see, because most of the time it's just people wanting to find something to be angry at. So I ignore it completely.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Like when I first heard you say like more popular, like my like like there were like alarms going on in my head. I was like, "There's no way that's true." But better, I mean, that's really subjective. I mean, like like they're both like similar. Like the gameplay itself is like similar into like turn-based combat and stuff like that. But I mean, they're like two different focuses. Like especially in terms of like the overall like aesthetic of like both of them. Like Shin Megami Tensei is like focused on like literal like demons and monsters, whereas like Pokemon is centered around like Pokemon that like are like aesthetically appealing to like at least in a conventional way. So I wouldn't say like um you could really make the argument that one is better than the other, at least not exactly like in a way that's like truly comparable. But
Yeah,
I
no,
mean, like,
and that's
yeah,
really what that's almost the exact same thing I told him because it's like it's also just Pokemon is more kid friendly
yeah,
than
it's more
Persona
marketable.
is.
Yeah,
So it's like that's also another I want to say demographic that's opened up that makes it so much easier to get Pokemon out there than I would say
yeah.
Persona. And I'm not knocking either of the games. Both are
Oh,
amazing games and
yeah,
series. But like really statistically one has greater success at least as of right now than the other.
absolutely.
So
Yeah, no.
I don't
I
know, but
mean,
that's not like it wasn't something I was like I need to debate this. This is more like I'm not so sure about that.
yeah.
So, it's whatever though. So, but I mean, I'm excited to play it whenever I get around to playing it. I know I
Hmm.
have so much time, and this is that. It's almost ironic because Xenoblade, the remaster, is coming out later that I also wanted to buy. So I'm like, great,
Yeah,
I'm gonna have so. I don't even know what's gonna happen anymore at this point of like
yeah,
me and
no.
my games. All I know is that I'm probably gonna be starting streaming ASAP, and then I'm just gonna have so much on to do on top of that with like my own personal collection. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I think I might have missed it, but wow, what games were you thinking about playing for your streams?
Okay, so I just came up with like what games I'm gonna be doing like yesterday.
Hmm.
So I decided I was gonna do God of War because again that's a game I have not opened.
Yeah, you mentioned, yeah.
I'm also going to do Detroit Become Human, which also fun fact I have not opened, and I've owned this game for over a year now
Oh my God.
because I just okay. There are many reasons I haven't started this game,
Yeah.
but one of the reasons is that one of my friends asked that I not play it, or he didn't ask me to not play it. He asked me to not play it with him around, and then I was
Oh,
like, "Oh, you're gonna be around so much, and I'm gonna play this." That I know I will have to talk about it, and I respecting that I don't want to spoil this for you at all. I just never played the game,
wow.
so so now like now that he's played it, I am gonna play it freely with like a clean conscience and everything, knowing I won't spoil anything for him. And
That's good.
then the other game that I'm gonna be streaming is Yakuza Kiwami, which is you know me, I'm a huge Yakuza fan considering how much of the
Yep.
series I follow, and it's so much fun. I'm seeing to get people into the series, and so I have this game ready, lined up to continue and to play. And this one is technically opened, but it's also unopened because I bought it as I believe I bought it as a used copy. If not, I just took off the plastic packaging when I did get it, and I just completely forgot about it. But yeah, it's a metal book and everything, and I'm very happy with this.
Hmm.
And our steelbook, as they're called, I believe it has a little bit of bonus content since it is a steelbook edition.
Oh
So that's
wow.
another game. And then finally, I'm just gonna have a day to where I just play fighting games because it's
Mm.
been a while since I've dusted off my fighting games, and I just kind of want to go back through and play those. And then I might also have a day where I either do retro stuff or I'm gonna at least go back and finally finish all my Crash Bandicoot games
Oh
from
my
the
God.
Insane trilogy because they are so hard and
Dude,
take
I still
so
have
long.
yeah, I still haven't gotten past that one level where like you're going up a tower and it's raining and like there's a bunch of like death traps and stuff like that. It's
Oh my
just
gosh, yeah,
man, it's so and I think you know which one I'm talking about. It's
I think
so
so too. Yeah, but like there are
it's
levels I keep going through that I'm like I am having so much trouble beating this.
oh my
But
God.
I am also very excited to go back and try it all over again
Hmm.
because there is so much I have yet to do to beat the game, and I'm not going to try and 100% it because
Oh no.
like I don't have my confidence in my skills of platforming to do that.
Hmm.
But I'm definitely going to go through and play more.
Yeah.
I might also dust off my Mega Man games at some point because I realize I bought Mega Man 1 through 10 and
Hmm.
I just have not gone back to play them just because I've never had the time.
Yeah.
So I'm
I've
definitely going to
actually
go back through and play those.
yeah, I've never actually played I've never at least not like played a Mega Man game to completion actually. I thought that was like
The only one I've played to completion is 2,
uh-huh.
which is probably the case for a lot of people, but yeah, that's the only one I have ever played to completion. Not on the Switch, I don't think. But I played it to completion on, I think it was an emulator to where I played it to completion. But yeah, that was another one I was going to play. Or that's another game I'm considering going back to and streaming, or I may just do it on my own personal time. Because again, I have a bunch of games I still have not touched. So yeah, it it's a lot to go through, but I'm very excited. Like, it's been a while since I've been excited to tackle a project,
Mm-hmm.
and so, but this is something I'm definitely going to enjoy.
Yeah, man. Like, I'm also kind of like, I'm kind of like conflicted because like I kind of want to like start just like recording stuff like from the share play from my PS4 because I'm not really like look I'm not trying to like record gameplay like so seriously that I buy a capture card. But again, I'd also think like it might be a better idea just to get a capture card just in case like I actually do want to like actually like up the not production value but like actually make it like look good. So
Yeah,
I mean yeah,
yeah.
but like I'm interested in that too. Like I'm actually really
Um,
excited for that too.
like right now is the best time I would say to do it
Yeah.
because of the state of the world. Now is the best time to pick up personal projects of just any kind. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, a lot of people are picking up streaming right now because like there were so many like there was a capture card in particular I was looking for, and it was completely sold out, and I was like, what? Like just a month ago, it was completely in stock, and now it was like sold out everywhere. Or if people did have it, they were upcharging it. And I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna pay like 80, $100, $200 more for something that should be like
No.
160.
Yeah.
And but honestly, I would say if you are interested in streaming, pick up, I would say, the Elgato HD60. That is the
Mm-hmm.
most basic of capture cards on the market right now, at least in terms of like the good quality ones.
Yeah.
And if it's just for like a like simple stream and stuff, that is a great thing to pick up. Like,
Yeah.
but for me, like, I went a little, but for me, like, since, for me, I was going to get the HD60 originally, actually,
Mm-hmm.
but then I saw when I was buying stuff, I found I think there were only two in stock when I found this. It was a refurbished model of the Elgato 4K model.
Yeah.
The and so and it was only like 180 compared to like a way higher price, which I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But I was like, that's a great deal right now. So I'm picking that up now
Mm-hmm.
and not questioning it at all, and then regret not buying it later.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think I have to look into it a little bit more, but I think I am starting to get sold a bit more and actually investing in a capture card because I am actually really excited to like, just create content. Like like you said, like right now is the time for it. I mean, it's the perfect time for it right now.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's not like I'm going anywhere or doing anything. So it's like I
Yeah.
want to keep myself busy right now.
Yeah.
Especially, it's weird for me because like the other day, and I feel like I don't know if students can relate to this or not, but I had just finished like my final projects and everything, turned everything in. Next day, I'm just laying around in my room and I'm like, I have nothing to do. Like,
Yeah.
there is nothing to do. And it was weird because usually, like, again, last year, had you asked me, I would have just gone over to a friend's house or done whatever, or I would have been back by now or doing something else. But now I'm just like, I have nothing to do.
Yeah.
So I have no idea like what's going on or anymore. But so I was like, you know what? I need to pick up these projects. I have these games I have unfinished. And it kind of just came together. And I mean, we also have the podcast here we're doing now too, which I'm hoping to have a lot more fun doing whenever we record because again, unscheduled, we kind of do this whenever we want.
Yeah.
It's just for fun. Like it's not I know even if we're technically just at home, timing in our own personal lives is still going to matter a little bit with what's going on.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to just like record whenever and just have that fun that you and I have just talking.
Totally agree, man. Like I think making it like sort of unscheduled kind of adds to that because like if we don't schedule it, that means we're doing it when we actually want to do it. So
Yeah,
it works out, I
yeah.
think.
But I did want to get this story out there before like we wrap up or anything. And I was talking about this with my friend yesterday, if not the other day. Um, so I know you saw my tweets where, and
Yeah.
people were like, I got at least like two messages asking if I was okay, and others of like, you are going insane. And it was just my tale of Lucas the spider. That was just a spider that was hanging out in my room the entire day. Like, it wasn't doing anything. It was just hanging out in my room the entire day. And I was just tweeting about it because I just found it so funny. Because to me, like, my first thought was, oh, a spider in my room. I should probably kill it. And then I just thought to myself, I was like, wait a minute, this spider's not doing anything. It's not bothering me. It's just kind of chilling there, living its life. So I was just like, you know what? I'm bored. Why don't I just, like, I just started tweeting about it. Like, I don't know what possessed me to start tweeting about it or anything. I just had fun tweeting about it, though. And
Yeah.
even though it was not like a long story or anything, I think I only did like 8 tweets throughout the entire day. It was just really fun for me to just like be like, hey, this spider's hanging out with me today. And I mean, what was so funny to me though is that like after I had named the spider, because I had been asking around for names for the spider, after I had done it, like half an hour later I had started thinking of a new name, but I was like, damn it, I had already officially named the spider. You can't just take a name back like that. Like,
Yeah.
you can't just be like, oh wait, no, that's not your name anymore. I'm gonna name you this instead. I'm like, no, you can't do that.
You have to
I,
go through the yeah.
no, I was just like, that's like, it felt weird because I'm like, wait, this spider isn't even my pet or anything, but at the same time, I'm like, I can't just take back the name of something I just named.
No.
So it was just wild to me, and I was having my own little fun with it, and I was just like, I got some comments on the I guess updates, and it was pretty funny to me because it's like I got like the I got messages the next day asking why didn't you kill it, or I would have ran away from it, or I would have burned my house down. I'm like,
Oh
it's
my god.
not bothering anyone. It's just a little
Yeah.
spider just hanging out.
Yeah, no, like if it's just chilling, like what's the problem? But I mean like if it's like approaching me menacingly, like then yeah, I am.
Spider intensifies.
Yeah. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah, no, like but yeah, no, I think that was the right judgment call.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I ended up just I ended up just like I did the little cup and piece of
Yeah.
paper trick, did that, and then I just set him outside because I was like, you know what, I don't want to kill you, but I also don't want to leave you overnight because then I'm just gonna truly lose track of you. Because I lost track
Mhm.
of him a few times throughout the day, and I know I tweeted about that, but
Yeah.
I just put him outside, and that was that. But I was just like, I'm glad I had a little fun with that today.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun. But with that, I think that's a good place to stop for today.
Yeah.
All right. If you stuck around this long, thanks for sticking around. We appreciate it. And so, with that, like we said, there's not going to really be a set schedule to this. So, who knows? You may get like 3 episodes one week and maybe only a single episode the next week. But we're going to try and do this when we can. So, thank you again so much for listening.
Yeah, we appreciate it, and we hope you stick around. I know maybe it being unscheduled might be a bit of a difficult task, but we promise to sort of make this a regular thing. So hopefully you'll stick around for that.
All right. Thank you so much and have a good one. Bye.
Bye.